So many cameras.
Hmm.
Welcome to another episode of ddeductun mudook. I'm your host Philip, and I sure love them aliens, I do. Hi Paul.
Is that ChatGPT?
Yep.
Okay. Hi.
What would you say if you were generated by an AI?
I sure love those men.
Sorry.
We have to cut that out.
Alright, let's get quacking.
Let's get cracking, yes.
So, I asked the AI to generate a logo according to a description I gave it of our podcast, and it made the derpest duck picture ever. I love it so much. And I didn't ask it that, but I also made a name, and it's ddeductun mudook, which I love so much. You can see the picture somewhere here.
Oh yeah. Mudook.
Also, we are in an amazing studio today. We got all the selection of books, and Paul is looking like the most professional person ever, while I'm going to read this book, which is appropriate for my outfit. We have Cooking with Fallout, Cooking with Elden Ring. We have Witcher, which I like.
It's a really bad translation, actually.
Can you understand it in Japanese?
No, my wife read it and she said that it seems to be like based on the TV show. So it's not actually based on Andrei Tarkovsky's work.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah.
And I also have this book.
You've discovered my secret to my youth.
Madaria Tsadas Peredi Fadelshia Samiko Zasani Tarekosov. Okay.
Something's coming. Alright, sure.
So, thank you for making this possible. This is, of course, Paul's workshop again.
Wow, it used to be a closet. Now it's a bookshop. So, yeah.
Oh no, don't destroy the books. So today you're talking about technology and cryptography and like all kinds of difficult to understand and comprehend topics and the
related
future of
to
technology.
the book Snow Crash.
Yeah, by Neal
Stephenson. Yes.
So
Stephenson. Now I'm confused.
I thought it was Stephenson, but it has to be the tradition to actually say it wrong every single time. And I'd like to take this opportunity to quickly make a prediction about the future of technology, because the book we're talking about is from 1992, right before internet became really popular. I think HTML started in 1993 or something like that. And don't quote me on that, but I looked it up.
Okay.
And now we have this ChatGPT language model system that you can ask things and it will just help you with anything. So I just want to have a minute and just ask you how it will change the world or us. Maybe it will replace us. The conversation we had at the beginning that already was like attempts to replace us, including the logo. So my prediction, to be very positive, I like to be positive.
Keep it concise.
Is that I think it will make everything much faster, much easier. And people will learn much faster if they want to. It will be a part of everyday's life because it can solve all your problems very quickly as far as processing and compressing information and looking up information and answering questions, correcting code and information. All of that takes so much time in nowadays lives, like debugging. Such a pain. It's gonna be so easy now, so I'm so happy about it.
Okay, that's good. And
on the other hand, there could be security issues like that, but I think it's kind of a positive future.
Alright.
It's like when calculators became popular and the teachers were like, you can't use those, and now it's like whatever. So they're gonna be like, you can't use this to write an essay, and then in a few years everybody's like, yes, but think please, like don't just have it replace you. So what do you think will happen in the next few years?
Next few years, not much, but longer term, maybe. As I said before, I think it's just another tool.
Okay.
And, it's recycled conversations of things. Like automation's replacing people, or things like this. We've heard the same conversations over and over again. People move on to different fields. The labor market changes. That's economics.
Okay.
Read an economics book, people.
That's a summary.
Yeah. Don't be a Luddite. Don't be smashing up the printing press. Or the looms or whatever. The Luddites, no?
Yeah, there's something like that. I'm not sure.
You don't know about the Luddites?
No.
No? So they were like a textile union who were concerned about the mills in Europe. And
Okay.
They were worried about them replacing their work, so they smashed up the machines. And now Luddite is referred to as someone who doesn't want to or hates new technology.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks for educating me, Mr. Professor, teacher, person.
Professor Paul. Anyway.
I shall refer to you only as Professor Paul now.
Please don't. Alright.
So the book you're talking about is called Snow Crash. And it's kind of long, kind of inventive, kind of progressive.
Well, it's 1992 it was published as well. So
it's like a very interesting time capsule from a point of view of somebody who's trying to predict technology and the future of technology. So how did you like this? I think you like this a lot, right?
I read it twice. I actually much enjoyed it more the second time.
Like it would be better second time.
Yeah, second time you kind of understand a lot more what's going on and you pick up a lot more points that you missed. The first time it's cyberpunk, so a lot of it can just, especially his writing style. This is the first book I read. I've read another book of his as well, Termination Shock. The way he writes is that there's a lot of stories that seem to like just intersect and go over each other. And things like this. And if you're not paying attention, you really miss things. So, yeah. Probably
my problem. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
But I reread part 2 and I enjoyed it. This book seems like it's been tailored for me. All the checkpoints.
Yeah.
Except aliens. But there is just linguistics, crypto, just encryptions, computer, just viruses, going into a virtual world, hacking, all the geeky technical stuff. And then on top of it, like Sumerian mythology and like philosophy and like
religion
and like strange theory about memetics or memes even. All of this, it's all for me. I love these things so much.
Okay. But
so then, how do you like the characters in the story?
I like some of them.
Okay.
The main character sort of seems to fluctuate between really stupid and really smart.
Yeah.
The young girl, YT, I like her. I think, and some of the other sort of side characters, I quite like them as well.
I couldn't make myself care about the characters. That's
really?
my problem.
Okay.
And I couldn't just get into it in the sense of I'm excited about the plot. Like the plot didn't work for me. Like I like the ideas. I love the setting. I love the history part. Actually, I usually hate history info dumps, and in this book, it's the best part for me.
How about the action?
And the action is like...
Really? I really like the action in this book.
It's fun, but it's like trying to be too cool for no reason. There is nothing normal happening ever.
I grew up in the 90s. It's pretty cool. So,
It's like this author had a very, very clever, very well constructed and very compelling idea. That's basically a history lesson. And then he should make it as rad, as cool for people as possible. So he wrapped it into like a cyberpunk story. And it didn't work for me. Like,
I think it's very much a product of its time.
Yes.
So, it's 90s.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
It felt very disjointed to me. Like, that's why I would describe it book.
Yeah, I think, as I said, like, the other book I read, like Termination Shock. Yeah, he has like 3 or 4 different stories kind of going on at the same time. and they sort of intersect and kind of merge and go over and overlap kind of thing. That's, I think, why it feels a bit disjointed.
Yeah.
Also, I wasn't sure when I read it the second time, like, is the timeline actually kind of like linear, or are we kind of jumping back and forth as well? I don't know. That was a bit confusing.
That's exactly my problem. It was very difficult to like get excited about the characters' motivations, and like there's no character arc. That's why my problem. Like there's no character development very much. Like the character is the same guy at the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
The other characters kind of too. Nobody goes through any development. They're just like there, and they're super cool, and they do super cool stuff in a super cool place. But why? Like, there's no like. I was kind of disappointed with there's so many cool ideas that I really like to talk about, and made me think about lots of things. But it was only a part of the book where they just like dump history at you. For also like why? Like I was like, why are we doing this? Like okay, it serves the story, but it doesn't really fit in the story. It's so strange.
Yeah, I get that point.
That's why I was kind of put off.
Okay.
So yeah. So I went to do like a gimmick. If I always say I hate reviews, and I went to do like a quick. If I wanted to rate books, this is I think my ideal way I would rate books.
Your paper's on the floor.
Yes. Okay.
Wait.
Do you have a pen?
I gave you one, didn't I?
No, you took it away then.
I took it away. Oh no. Alright, hang on.
Sorry. So if I ever wanted to rate a book, I would rate it with a graph, because number doesn't make any sense to me. So the line in the middle is you don't care.
Okay.
The lower you go, the worse it gets. The higher you go, the better it gets.
Okay.
But it's a cylinder. There has to be a gimmick. I knew this face would happen.
Keep going.
So if you have something horrible, it might be so bad it's actually good. So it goes wrong. But that doesn't happen so much, so don't worry about it. That has to be there. So
shouldn't you do this with like a red pen or something? Alright, but anyway.
Doesn't matter.
No.
So how I felt about this book was something like this. So at never point was it bad, but I lost interest gradually. And there were points I really piqued my interest.
Yeah.
But overall it was just a down. And then the ending. But how did you like the ending?
I like the ending actually.
I was like, why is this? I was like,
you gotta wrap up the book somehow. But I didn't mind the ending.
I didn't mind either.
I would agree that it's about 2/3 in kind of the second third of the book. Kind of my interest sort of dropped. The first third, I was really into it. And it kind of perked up a little bit at the end. So.
Actually, to be honest, like the middle part is where they start talking about the history, so there was like a big spike like from right here. So I love this part. And then like every time there was something, like the plot was moving forward.
Hold it up.
There was no just hook for me there.
Yeah. Is this his first novel?
No. It's like the third or fourth.
Oh, okay.
He wrote a bunch before.
Right.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I just wanted to like quick thing. How would you make this graph look?
No, I can kind of get what you mean. Like, I'd probably have a few more like peaks than you. Yeah, during the history of like language and things like that, my interest kind of dropped.
Oh, that's the opposite for me.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, give me all the linguistics.
I don't care. I can speak it, but I'm not interested why I do it. But anyway, and the whole librarian thing, that situation.
Yeah, that was so strange, and I liked it the best. That's so weird about it, because there are katanas and people are sliced up, and there's battles and hacking and virtual reality, and it was like, okay, but like my problem with this is it was like very interestingly described, very interesting situations, but they served no like tangible purpose. There was no like.
I think it's just world building a lot.
Yes, it's just world building.
I love this world.
Yes.
I want to live in this world.
But I don't want that. I want the characters to do something and go somewhere.
But I think the author is aware of that because the main character's name is hero protagonist. Yes. Protagonist. That's it. That's all he is. Yeah. Yes. So I mean, he's just a device.
Even to the point of, I didn't even feel like they were real characters. I was almost expecting at one point that they would say at the end, "Oh, all these were just avatars. They're not real people," because they didn't feel like real people.
No, I think the teenage girl was very much real.
That's the only person who kind of had a personality.
Yeah, she's very much like 90s girl. So I can imagine her very easily.
Yeah, but I didn't hate it. I was just kind of sad that I didn't care for it at parts. And then I really struggled at the end. I was like, why?
No, fair enough.
So yeah. So the writer we already mentioned, this is one of his books. He was born in 1959 and he's famous for cyberpunk and basically cryptography.
Yeah, he's quite kind of popular in sort of libertarian circles actually. So no surprises there. So
like Bill Gates and do you know who Sergey Brin is?
No, I saw that before. I had no idea. No.
John Carmack, that's my like idol. I love him so much. Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel.
Thiel.
Yeah, he's like sort of created like PayPal and things like this.
Oh, okay.
Kind of one of the creators of the internet, basically, as we know it. So
yeah, so all these people love Neal Stephenson.
Stephenson. Shit.
So he also wrote Cryptonomicon, which I would love to read. It sounds like something I would be very much into, more as a study book than a storybook.
Okay.
And he won something called the Prometheus Hall of Fame Award. I just want to mention that he did win something.
Okay.
Did win something. The word cryptocurrency is probably his fault.
Maybe.
Because all his deal is studying mathematics and crypto and just like encryptions and decryptions and data compression. And that's very much the theme of this story.
Yeah.
And he did a lot of other stuff. He's a really clever guy, seems like.
Yeah. He's working on the Blue Origin rocket thing, but he dropped out of it.
But a long time, like 7 years or something.
Yeah. I can imagine how that went down, actually.
What do you mean?
Well, because the owner of Amazon, God, I forgot his name. Oh, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure Jeff does these plans across to Neal. Neal looked at it and was like, this is just a giant cock with flames coming out the bottom, man. I'm out. Have you seen the rocket?
Yes.
It's like, man, look, I signed on this for something visionary, but you've just drawn a cock rocket. I'm done. I'm sure that's what happened.
Okay. He's also apparently obsessed with swords.
Oh, really?
Because he made a Kickstarter for a game called Clang, which was supposed to super realistically simulate sword fighting.
Oh wow!
And he was like really into it, and he really like studied all the history about it.
That makes sense considering this book.
Yes.
So, yeah. Katanas and shit. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it just didn't get done.
Okay.
After a few years, it got funded, but it didn't get finished because of issues.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's written a lot of other books until now, and it's all kinds of interconnected, you said? Some of the books?
No, I was going to say his writing style is very much similar.
But I think...
Well, you mean the themes? Or
the characters also.
I've only read two, so...
I've read some mentions that like the Cryptonomicon characters appear in some other places, and some of the other books he wrote.
Okay.
It's kind of relevant.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's see. All right.
Yeah, so in general, would you recommend it, or what do you think?
It's a difficult question. Some caveats. This is 1992, so look at that through that kind of lens. I know for maybe younger people they can imagine it, but this is the predictions are very spot on, I think, a lot of things. If you're really into cyberpunk, yeah, sure.
I love that, and I didn't get off on that as much.
Okay. I liked it. Well, I was playing the game like cyberpunk 2077. And this has really reminded me of the world, actually. So, how kind of society has kind of split up into sort of different corporations and things like this. So it's really spot on with that kind of stuff, I think. It's very, really futuristic. But 1992, it's like,
it feels very dated and very very like futuristic and current as well. It's a very strange feeling I had.
It's like 30 years ago. That's a long time ago.
And that means it's very progressively like timeless. But at the same time, when reading it, it felt like there was so many things that were very old, but not. There is no thing. There's nothing I can point out that's like not correct or not up to date. But it felt like the descriptions were kind of 90s, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. There's another thing too. His the main character in this one is like a mixed race person. And the other one I read recently, Termination Shock, was also the main character was a mixed race, Comanche, Indian, but he's not Indian. He's like black kind of thing and mixed. And you learn. There's a good thing about these books actually. You do learn stuff that I didn't know about. And Termination Shock, I learned about the line of control between India and China. I never knew about that. I didn't know about the Comanches. Like, they didn't believe in race. They just took anybody and said, "This is a movement. We don't care if you're white or black or whatever." I knew nothing about that. So you actually learn a lot from his.
Also,
books,
here I was curious how much of it is based on truth.
Yeah.
I guess most.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I'd recommend it if you were in for it for the world building and the history, but not if you want an action story. Like, the action wasn't bad.
I like the action. I really like the action in this book.
I would actually say that if it was a comic book or movie and they had the same idea somehow shoved in there, which would be very difficult, but if they managed, it would be interesting to have it just explained and then you have some time to ponder about it while you watch the action scene. That would kind of work. Here is, I don't know, just I remember like an action scene where they were cutting each other with katanas and then like somebody just bites somebody else's crotch and it's like every single thing that happens is just to be extra cool. like extra edgy and strange. Like, there's nothing normal that happens in this book.
It's the 90s, man. It's like the coolest time. Yeah. As I said, maybe younger generations probably read this and like, this is super dated and an old man trying to be cool kind of thing.
That's what I was afraid of, but I don't think that's it at all.
Okay. Alright.
There are certain things that feel very strange from a point of view of somebody who like writes code, and they explain the code. That was my question. Did it bother you, or did it just was not interesting, or how did you feel about the like programmer quirks or like the binary code and like what kind of code people write and how they think about it? How did you feel about it as somebody who doesn't do that much?
I don't do it at all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those parts I kind of just powered through it. So the language part, because it overlaps with the language parts and stuff as well. So it's not that bad. I don't get too technical with it. I mean, if you actually... I think with these books, these aren't something you sort of lightly read. I think you have to kind of sit down and read it properly, concentrate when you're reading it.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, I think it's fine. But if this is just like a casual read before bed, it's probably not a good idea because a lot of it's just going to go over your head.
That's yes. So if you don't want it for a casual read, I'd recommend it. If you want it for fun, I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay.
It's just for like thinking about stuff. That's so stupid. I mean, just thought-provoking history. If you like those things, the action is good, but it's not the appeal of this.
Okay.
I would say.
No, I like the action.
Okay.
I like the world building. So
Me too.
Okay. Yeah. A couple of characters I like. So. But okay.
Right. So I guess we can get into the story, and there's gonna be a lot of weird ideas to discuss. I'm sure, or if not, I do have a lot of them. So you can all cut them out later. So this book was 480 pages long.
It's long.
No,
Long for me.
didn't feel long,
Okay.
but it felt. I already said it. Just didn't feel like I was just hungry to read the next part.
Okay.
I was more like, okay, it's just like I like it, but that's how I felt.
Okay. Sure.
And it's based on the situation where a computer crashes. So if you have a Mac and it's an old Mac and it crashes like really badly, then it's just noise on the screen.
Snow crash.
Just black and white noise.
Yep. Yes.
So that's why snow crash. I haven't heard of this before.
Yeah, until I read this book as well and researched about it. Yeah, I didn't know about it.
You know the black screen of death? Oh, sorry, blue screen of death.
Yeah.
But you don't know the snow crash.
Yeah.
And like we said, it takes place in the future. This is in the 21st century.
I guess, but I mean, some of the characters are referring to like Vietnam War and stuff. So
not so far.
No,
that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, not too far in the future. I think maybe it's even an alternative 1992.
Yeah. So the world is very different from what we know, and like we already mentioned, it's divided into these kinds of entities, corporations.
Yeah, there's still a United States government, but their territory is getting smaller and smaller, and they're very bureaucratic. And
so they call them burpclaves.
Yes. It's
like suburbs, maybe, or something. Okay. Yeah. So there's something called the Franchise Organized Quasi-National Entity. FOQNES. And there are so many things like this in the book. It's always like, this super amazing system, blah, 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 blah. Like, why is this name there? It's fine. It's just like, there's so many of these terms all the way everywhere.
Well, I think, as I said, like, he's sort of quite popular in this sort of libertarian circles. In the libertarian circles, there's a French element who want this sort of like no rules or no laws, sort of, and the society will manage to manage itself, kind of thing. And this is kind of what most people would probably imagine what would happen. So that anarcho-capitalistic kind of society.
Yeah.
What do they call it? Alco-capitalist?
I don't know.
So like,
Sorry. I know what you mean.
Like but yeah.
So there's America, and there's Japan. Japan is like super evolved, so to be separate because they have strong economy.
Well, this is 1992, so in that time, Japan was like the powerhouse of Asia. So there was a lot of sort of, like, at that time, a lot of movies like Rising Sun and things like this. Like Japan was taking over the world, so it was kind of written in the context of Japan was kind of not like this is what happened, but anyway, that's a story for another time.
Yep. Yeah. There's also Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong.
I love that. Yeah. Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong.
And then there's something called...
but it's not in Hong Kong, it's America.
Yes.
And
then there's something called American Mafia, which is a place.
They have... they're a franchise organization.
It's a franchise. I'm really confused about what this is. Like.
Yeah. Though, I forgot the company's name. But, they kind of sort of move into different areas to kind of control it and things like this.
Okay.
But they run corporations and entities and things like that. Mostly pizza delivery.
That was we'll get into that in a minute, but just to finish like the setting.
Yes.
So there's also a problem with money, hyperinflation.
Yes.
So people just use cryptocurrency basically.
Yeah,
but they don't call it cryptocurrency.
No. There's like things like Kong bucks. And, there was another one she mentioned later. The Mises. Yeah, digital money, basically crypto. Mises, she mentioned, which was basically the printed money.
Oh, I don't. Okay.
And I was like, Mises, is that like von Mises, like the Austrian economist? But it's not. It's Edward Mises, who was like working in the Reagan administration.
I'd like to know something about that.
Yeah. So he was working on basically a limited government kind of thing like this. But yeah, I don't know much about the history of that. So leave something in the comments if you know. Because I have fucking no idea about American politics. Not so much anyway. But,
So there is the metaverse.
Yeah. Well done, Mark. You ripped it off.
He should have copyrighted this or something.
Yeah, he came up with it completely. Yeah.
Which completely predicted all these, Second Life.
Yeah. Avatars and
I think nowadays it's like Final Fantasy number 16, 15, 17.
Yeah.
And people buy houses and stuff.
Yeah.
So at the same time, there's the real world. And I am so confused what happens in the real world. Like, the book starts. So now is the point where you get into spoilers, actually.
Okay.
If you don't want to listen, like, this is kind of the setting. So now we're actually going to say what happens. So if you don't want to be spoiled, please stop listening. Come back if you read it. If you're curious what this is about, just stay.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to imagine. Like, so in this world, like the main character hero protagonist has, he's one of the founders of creating the metaverse, and basically people will just, you can imagine now, like logging in with VR goggles and going in to the world, and he's created a lot of the programs and software in that.
They don't describe so much the technical details of the VR set, which I was curious.
No, they don't. No,
they just mentioned there is a helmet. But what the controls really are like, they never say.
Why do you care about such detail?
Well, this is a book for nerds about technical stuff.
It just doesn't even occur to me. Yeah.
Well, it's directly related. Like, a lot of the plot is related to how the technology actually works. There is like viruses uploaded to people's brains, and that means it's very important to understand how the technology works. So that makes the plot.
You're gonna lose a lot of customers reading this book.
But that's what I wanted from it. That's why I want to know.
Just nerd shit, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So that is the metaverse. You connect in there, and it's very seriously set up. It's all secure, and you have your avatars, and your identity is kind of verified, and all this. It's like on a more developed level. We'll talk about the details. But then there is the real world. And the real world constantly feels stranger than the virtual world. And the stuff that happens in the real world is constantly more exciting than the virtual. I was like, what's happening?
Okay.
That was one of my problems. Every single time I was reading about the real world, it felt like it's a virtual reality. And every time I felt I was reading virtual reality, it felt too normal. And it was like, what happened there?
That's a good point, actually. I didn't think about that. You've got a good point, actually, because the cyberpunk world of reality
it's
is
so
actually
much cooler.
Yeah, and the
so
metaverse is kind of like,
and the metaverse is like, meh, okay.
Yeah, you can do sword fights and not die.
But yeah, so they didn't do anything interesting with the metaverse.
Yeah, but
and then they do too much with the real world to the point where it's distracting. Like, there's so much going on in the real world. It never felt real.
Okay.
And the metaverse always felt kind of boring. Like, what happened?
Well, the metaverse is still something that's sort of under creation, I guess.
Okay.
But yeah, you can make a good point.
That was my problem. Like, I was
Right.
constantly confused. When I stopped thinking about it, I constantly assumed that it's the virtual world, even though it's the real. Like, especially when I started reading this book, there is this pizza delivery plot. And it was also strange. Like, they have this super futuristic car system. You have to deliver a pizza in a limited time.
Yeah, I love the beginning of this book, actually. So, what are they called? Deliverators?
Yes.
It's the 90s. So, it basically describes the world has broken down, and America's good at a few things, like coding something else and getting a pizza delivered on time.
And that's the only thing. Okay, sorry, continue.
Yeah. So the mafia is running the pizza business, Costa Nova Pizza, and you get your pizza in 30 minutes, or else the main character hero protagonist is a driver. He gets delivered. He gets given like a hot pizza. Basically, it's like the time is already running. He's only got like 15 minutes to get to the delivery. So we don't exactly know what happens if the pizza's late. But if the pizza's late, the owner of the pizza company, Uncle Enzo, he's in retirement. He's going to have to go personally to the house and apologize to the person for the late pizza. He's mafia. He's going to be, you pulled me out of my business or whatever. I'm gonna have to go and apologize.
It's such a strange combination of like old values and modern nerd stuff, and it's such a mix. I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah, I love the beginning of this especially. So that's at the beginning we get introduced to the two main characters here: protagonist, the pizza delivery driver, and Whitey.
which means yours truly.
Yes.
And it's just a random girl who appears out of nowhere.
Well, she's a courier, so she's using a harpoon, like a poon, and attached to cars. And to hitch a ride. Basically, so she's hitched to Hiro's car, and Hiro's really trying to get this pizza delivered to this place. And he's taking a shortcut, and he crashes the car into like an empty pool or something.
And before that, they mention how this happens all the time, and that people hook to cars all the time.
Yes.
What is this world? Who needs pizza so much, and why are there so many curious?
Well, when I was in university, I was thinking about applying for like bicycle courier, and it's kind of the same thing. But
But then nothing else is ever mentioned about the real world at this point, for example. And it felt so surreal, so strange, and without a real point. And I was like, what's happening? I was like, where is this going? Like, are you supposed to think that this is the most precious novel commodity, hot pizza now? Is it rare? Or is this normal? Why is it so important?
30 minutes or less, man. What are you talking about?
And the answer,
pizza, man.
And the answer is it's cool, I guess, or it's like.
I think at that time as well, like that whole 30 minutes or less thing in the 90s.
Yeah, it's just
a big thing.
So
it's like, and like when Hero crashes the car and YT sort of like just sort of going up and down the pool, and she says, "I can deliver it for you." And Hero is like almost on borderline tears because he knows I'm dead. I'm done.
Maybe we should have been awarding 90s points at this point.
Yeah, true.
So much of this now that I realize.
I miss the 90s. Yeah. So she takes a pizza for him, and she manages to get it to a bunch of like white racists in time, like 29:52 seconds or something.
Yeah, of course.
So the mafia owes her a favor, basically. So that's kind of a hook at the beginning. Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah, I was so confused at this point. I was like, what am I reading? I was like, what is this? Okay.
It's the same with all. I don't know this book. The Termination Shot was sort of start off the same way, with like the Queen of Holland landing a plane, and then a bunch of pigs running across the runway, and a guy who had a history with, like, his daughter was eaten by a pig, and he's tracking down the main pig called Snout. It's this is the way he writes. It's like these stories sort of intersect with each other. So
it's not bad. It's not boring. I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah, you got to pay attention because there's a lot of stuff going on, I think. So that's how we get introduced to the main characters. Yeah.
So hero protagonist is
the world's greatest sword fighter.
It's like a half black, half something.
He's half Japanese.
Yes. Reds, the most unusual looking person I've ever seen. Seems like. Yeah. He's got 2 katanas, but that's only in the virtual world.
No, he has in the real world.
Everybody's got 2 katanas.
No, he's got a katana because his father was captured by the Japanese in World War II. So we can kind of guess that this is still like 1990s, I guess.
And there are so many like strangely amusing points. Like I wrote one of my first notes I wrote was that he describes his father and how he liked cameras. Yeah. And how first time he saw one of his beautiful cameras, and he was like nuzzling through 8 levels of nylon and leather labia into the camera's pocket. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, I remember.
What am I reading?
Yeah. I do like his descriptions. They're really creative.
Yes, it's very inventively creative. But it doesn't hold together for me. I was at this point, for example, what are we learning about his father? Like, I don't even remember what his father was like. He has sexually designed camera bags, and he was a veteran, and he's tough, I guess. And there was like a lot of about his father.
We learn a bit more at the end.
Yeah, but I still don't know who he is. Like, I don't know who the character is.
Yeah, well, isn't that interesting?
Okay. So Hiro also is a hacker, of course. The only thing he's missing is like sunglasses and a hat, like a cap backwards.
Yeah, true.
And he's gonna be like hacker man.
Still much better than the 1995 movie Hackers.
Yeah.
God.
Of course, that's just a joke. I still haven't mentioned the other show, by the way. I'm not gonna do it.
No, don't.
So he hacks stuff, and he also programs stuff for a living.
And delivers pizzas.
And these pizzas, why does he? Okay, never mind.
Because hackers are not that important anymore.
But he doesn't only hack stuff; he also has a job. So why does he need to deliver pizzas when he has a job? And the job is apparently really profitable because he's made.
Oh, he's like collecting intel as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's inconsistent. Like the pizza thing was something like a responsibility, I guess, for him. Yes. A duty kind of thing.
Okay. So he's programmed a bunch of places in the metaverse, including a very famous place called
the Black Sun.
Yes. There's like a bar or like a party place.
Yeah, only those sort of exclusive people can get in.
And so that's like a pivotal point where plot moves forward.
So the avatars in the metaverse either are very well rendered. And
I like that part.
Yeah, and some people are kind of logging in from like public terminals, and they're kind of like a Xerox kind of zero.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Like that. So what happens is that I don't know, skip too much. You're gonna tell me I skip too much. There's a guy called Raven.
Yeah, he confronts Hero and says, "Hey man, want to try some Snow Crash?"
It's just like a virtual drug. It doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
And that's one of the technical nerdy points that you're gonna tell me not to worry about, but I mind it very much. The idea of so they pass cards in the virtual world that contain data.
Yes.
And the data is transferred immediately as soon as you touch it.
No, well, when you rip it open.
Okay.
Yes.
You do something with it, but passing data by passing a virtual object. Okay, but maybe I should just not talk about it.
You can talk about it, just do like a
I know. Because if you have data in a system, it's in the system already.
It's 1992, man.
No. If you use the data in the system, it's already executed, which means it's already there, the virus. You opening a card or placing it in a different spot is just the coordinates of the objects in the virtual world. It doesn't change anything, and you accessing it. Like, okay, let's say they designed the world that if you touch it, it automatically executes what's in it, which is the dumbest idea ever, and the hacker who's in the system should know this and prevent that. And also, why doesn't he run this in a virtual box, like a system that's supposed to catch the problem, which is so easy to do, and at the time, I'm sure they had that as well. I have many problems with this, but it's okay. You don't have to talk about it.
No idea what you're talking about, man. Okay.
Just have a sandbox and run it there. Why would... Alright. Okay, let's continue. So there's a friend called David with 5 in the name, which I was curious how you say his name.
This is David.
Okay.
Yeah.
I forgot in the audiobook if you listened if they said
David.
something. Okay.
Yeah. So he opens the Snow Crash.
So he gets Snow Crash and he just completely, his brain melts.
Well, yeah, he's confronted with this like cheap avatar that shows him like a Torah, like a scroll, and shows his face, and then he's like, "Oh, there was nothing," and then later he's like catatonic, like yeah.
So the idea is that the computer virus transferred or transformed or transcended into the real world.
Yeah.
And that's why I need the nerdy shit to see how it transcended, because if it's just visual, I don't buy it.
Okay.
There has to be some more sensory stuff. Like if they said you have a bodysuit and it's somehow connected to your nervous system and it stimulates like temperatures and pressures, and then there is like a sensory overload thing that stimulates the whole nervous system. Great, I get it completely. Like they uploaded the virus into your nervous system. But if you just have a screen and it's like blinking in your eyes, you know.
But isn't that going later into the whole kind of languages of virus?
Yes,
kind of thing?
yes. And you'll talk about it. Okay. But that's why I needed the nerdy shit, because I need to know what happens.
Maybe he should have written like 2 different versions of this book. One for the normies and one for the nerds.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Okay. So then there is another character who's the ex-girlfriend of David.
Anita?
Juanita. And she is a very important character who, again, I didn't feel like I knew who she was.
Well, she does not appear too much in the novel, actually. So a bit at the beginning, a bit at the end, kind of thing. So, but she's become deeply religious again. So she was religious and then became an atheist and then became religious again.
Lots happened with her. And I didn't understand what to take out of it. But yeah, we'll talk about when she appears again. But she gives hero protagonist some kind of data gathered by somebody called Lagos.
Yes.
Why?
Well, Lagos was the one that originally discovered about the virus.
Okay.
The language virus.
So he's been trying to gather data about it.
Yes. And he kind of forms sort of like a coalition of different groups to help. Later it's revealed that there's another character who kind of betrayed him with that. So Lagos is sort of the one that kind of brings him into the circle of what's going on. Yes.
So this data is like a artificial intelligence librarian person?
Oh, the CIC.
Is it the same thing?
Yes. The CIC is Essential something...
Yeah, it's just
corporation.
It's like an assistant.
Yes. But Essential Intelligent Corporation. So it's basically replacing like CIA. And now hero protagonist has access to basically a library and a librarian, who's and also he has like access to the first like Google map as well in the world.
Yeah,
which is like, well, that's actually predicting what actually happens.
And it's exactly what ChatGPT is now.
Yeah,
that's
that's true. Yeah. So the librarian, you ask him a question, he can only kind of give you a logical answer. But he doesn't pick up on things like sarcasm or humor or
exactly
things like
what ChatGPT is.
Yes,
So strange. It was very accurate.
Yes.
And this is my favorite part of the book. Like,
this is the most boring part for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with this book. It's the most boring part. It's a horribly like huge info dump.
Yeah.
History, language, linguistics, cryptography, math, philosophy, religion, science, Sumerian mythology, up your ass. And it's the best part of the book. I really liked it. But it was also exhausting.
Yeah, that's why I had to actually ask the AI, can you explain to me the snow crash virus and the history of the virus? Because it was so much information.
I liked it.
It's a huge dump of information that I really had trouble processing, to be honest. Even Uncle Enzo, he could understand, but I couldn't. It's like,
So maybe we can save this at the end, because I will ask you some questions about it.
Sure.
Or I will like see what you think about it.
Yeah.
So he basically is researching about this virus, and in the meantime, Whitey just does escapades, just like does errands for people.
Yeah, but she's also doing like she's trying to gather intel, because that's the way her and Hero have become kind of partners in that case, and business partners.
She's working for Enzo, Uncle Enzo.
Well, Enzo has sort of taken a liking to her, actually. Yeah, so like a kind of father figure.
How old is he?
He's Uncle Enzo, man. He sells the pizza. I just take care of the community.
And she's like 16 or something?
15. It's the 90s, man. Come on.
And then there is the porn scene later.
Oh,
never mind. We'll get to that. So, is that also 90s?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone's fucking around in the 90s. Anyway.
Okay. So, why did they become partners? I guess because they have a common interest. Why does she want to work for Enzo? I guess because money?
No, well, Enzo's taken a liking to her, as in like kind of, she helped him out with the pizza, and she finds like Uncle Enzo quite like kind of a nice, debonair, charming kind of old man. Yeah.
That was my question. Like, what do they want? Like, I guess Hiro, he's not employed to be a security somebody in the metaverse. He doesn't work there anymore, right? He just, so why does he care about the virus? And she's just a delivery person. Why does she care about Enzo?
Well, you've forgotten that Juanita is actually kind of recruited Hero at the beginning.
Okay, that's part I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like, stay away from Raven, stay away from Snow Crash.
Okay, that happened, yes.
Yes, here's the card, there's something going down. I'm going away. and she kind of brings him in to the plot. That's why. So.
Okay, so that thank you.
Okay.
So
they're kind of working as like a coalition to kind of stop the spread of this sort of mind virus.
So in the meantime, sometimes we have a scene with a robo dog. Yes. That's one of my favorite parts too. So this is...
I agree. The rat things.
This is also in the real world. Or not? I don't
It's
even
in
know.
real world.
Okay.
It's Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong.
It was so
The security
strange
dogs.
that I was completely sure it's not the real world. And
No, because they're talking about how these dogs have biological and mechanical, and so they're powered by isotopes and things like this.
Okay.
So they're real, yes. And later, it's sort of one of the dogs that YT kind of fostered. He became like one of these sort of android sort of.
Oh, okay. I see.
What's like the Terminator? It's not like a
Cyberpunk biological dog.
Yes. That kind of rescues.
And we get like a point of view of the dog and how he thinks about stuff.
Nice people coming into the yard and other doggies barking.
They like send each other messages.
Yeah, I like this part too.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
So then more and more info dumps. This so much of this history, and it felt like there wasn't any plot at this point to me. These things were happening. Then sometimes there's like a dog doing something. Then the white is doing something. Then the info dump. And it was like, where is this going?
This is the part where I think the timelines get a bit confusing, because the dog's talking and then he's talking about some nice people have come into the yard. And that's hero protagonist and YT have entered the Mr. Lee's Greater Hong Kong. So it gets a bit confusing, I think. Wasn't sure if the timeline's actually linear or not, because I felt like the times were kind of jumping around back and forth a little bit. So
that part I was a bit out of it. I was like, what's that?
Okay.
And then I was like, oh yeah, more Sumerian brain fuck. Okay. That's how I was reading this.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So then, I guess we'll talk about all the Sumerian history at the end. What happens then? So who is Rife? Rife is the leader behind Snow Crash?
No, Rife is basically he is sort of controlling like the media.
Okay.
So I don't know about that actually.
But he wants to spread the virus.
Yeah, because he basically wants to become like king of kings kind of thing.
That part I understand, but
Yes.
like who is he in the world? Like he's just like a rich person, somebody?
I forgot his history, but he basically gets into like sort of cable TV and things like this.
Okay.
And he basically, there's an interesting part of the book where he's talking about how he's sort of set up like spying cameras on his employees because he doesn't want them taking information home. And he made an analogy of, I won't let for example, if I had a factory for making cars, I wouldn't let my employees drive them or take the tools home. So I'm not going to let them take the data home from their brains. So that's kind of blends into the whole snow crashing thing of, I want to manipulate or control what people think.
So he wants to make something called May,
yes.
And then something called Namshab, and then somehow infect people. So we talk about this in depth, but for now, it just means to control people.
Yes.
Like directly in their brain.
Yes. I was going to ask you about Namshab and stuff like this because it was a bit too much confusing for me.
That's all that I want to talk about a lot, but
okay.
Let's leave it at the end so we can just cut it and stop editing.
Alright.
Because that's going to be all the nerdy shit you don't want to hear.
So he's the antagonist, basically. Yes.
So Raven is working for him.
Yeah, Raven is working for him, but Raven has his own kind of motivations.
Which is?
Well, he has a tattoo across his head.
Yeah, that's something to say.
Core impulse control.
That was fun.
And he tells a story about how he was like a fisherman and how he used to like just put in their survival suits and drink in the ocean. And then he just woke up one time and everyone's gone and he's just like bobbing in the ocean. And then he gave up the booze. He basically gets his hand on like a nuclear bomb.
Yes.
And one of his motivations, he just wanted to blow up the United States. Because, but it's about his family history, because his father got nuked twice.
Yeah.
So he's just out for revenge.
And he's super buff and handsome. He's
He's
a
got
hunky
this
boy.
huge neck that goes up into his huge head or something as well. And he uses these weapons that are made out of like fine glass or something, so they don't pick up in like metal detectors and stuff. And he's like throwing spears through people and things like this.
This is insane. Like, how is this the real world and not the virtual reality? something happened somewhere and they should have flipped it. Like, this is obviously the virtual world we're talking about.
No, it's a real world.
And
he's throwing spears through people.
Maybe that's the point. Like, he's trying to make it interesting by this. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. So
I think we've covered all the main characters now.
Yeah. So the plot develops, and basically Rife and Raven, they want to infect as many people as possible with the virus so they can control them. So they plan an event, like a concert, and they want to just spread this information, because the virus is information. Information is just compressed values and stuff, so they can, by different methods that we'll talk about in depth later, transfer it into people's minds.
Yeah, and also there's an important point about Rife. He bought like an aircraft carrier.
Yes.
Because he's super rich and just
so that's the next step, yes.
He decks it out in his own kind of Texas way. And then it forms something called the Raft, where people who are like refugees and things like this are kind of like connecting themselves to the aircraft carrier, sorry. And it just becomes this big floating mass of different communities, but they're all speaking in tongues and communicating with each other in strange ways. So,
and that was why?
Oh, well, it's because of the virus.
That's the virus.
Yes,
so those people are already infected.
Yes, yeah.
That's okay. That was, I wasn't sure even. Like, was it?
No, they're infected. They're all speaking in tongues, but that's kind of that kind of like innate base virus or innate language that we're all carrying. So we're talking like Babel or whatever we're talking. So.
Did you listen to it or did you read it?
I listened to it.
Did you hear the tongues in there?
Yeah, like
Did you find it incredibly annoying at the end?
No, I was trying to repeat it.
Does it sound racist in any way?
There's a lot of racist stuff in this book, actually. But I want to say Neal Stephenson is probably the least racist person, actually.
Yes, but the voices.
Yeah, especially like. Well, there's a part as well, like when one of the mafia guys is recruiting one of the guys for his corporation. There's like a job fair. He's like, you don't want to work for those Nipponese, you know?
But you mentioned that.
Yeah, he's like, you know what they think of us? They call us foreign devils, you know? Come on, work for Uncle Enzo. We take care of you. I was like, it's really stereotyped, but sure. He never described the voices or the tongues in the book. So the person who made the audiobook, their fault. I feel like. I would have done the same thing. Anyway.
Okay. So Hiro saves the day at the concert. He fights Raven.
In the metaverse.
Now he's in the metaverse.
Yes. And
we skipped the part how, of course, Hiro is the best sword fighter in the universe.
Oh, because
the metaverse. He programmed it.
Yeah, he programmed it.
And he's got the leaderboard, and he's on top of the leaderboard, by the way, and he's the best on everything, and he can hack everything immediately. It's amazing.
Oh, because he created it.
Okay. And that's another thing that was kind of like, why are there so many fights in the metaverse? That's kind of boring, and no fights in the real world. That's kind of exciting. Like that is, but like the sword fights. There was a point I liked where they talk about how you can see the characters sliced open, and you can like see through them, and like it's clipping through the models, and it was kind of cool. But it didn't go anywhere. And then he does the same exact thing in the real life, and they describe how it's weird to cut people instead of virtual people. And it felt so strangely almost uninteresting.
Okay.
I was disappointed with this
Alright.
because I felt like it would go somewhere. Like they would keep switching characters. They would like load a new hand, or they would hack a new sword, or his sword would be more powerful hacking to go into his sword. That's also like a virtual sword.
Yeah, but they talk about often how much power it takes to render something like this. So like they just don't have the computing power.
Okay, but he's the hacker. He should hack it. And he said himself that he made it. He's the person to have the power to hack it. Why didn't he hack his leg off? Something. That's what I was expecting. It was like strangely boring to fight in the virtual world. I was expecting some hackery. Brickery. That's my disappointment.
Okay, it didn't bother me.
Okay.
Yeah, not really. Yeah.
So then we move to the real world, where on the raft, and
YT has been kidnapped.
oh my god,
You forgot that part. So YT gets a courier, delivery to go to the United States government, where her mother works actually as well, as sort of like a corporate drone. She's working in there. It's kind of miserable. I love how they describe the American government as like one of the most kind of bloated institutions, but they don't actually produce anything good. And it's like, oh, that reminds me of something. Anyway, and when she gets there, they try to arrest her because they've been interrogating her mother, and they kind of realize that she's kind of connected to the investigation.
Okay, so Whitey, who is she kidnapped by?
She's kidnapped by the Gates, the pearly Gates people.
Yeah, and those people are connected to Raif.
Yes. He gave them a lot of money.
Okay, so he basically owns them.
Basically, yes.
And Uncle Enzo is like against them.
Well, yeah, he's a part of the coalition to stop the virus.
So Uncle Enzo wants to protect Whitey because he's a creep, and he gives. I'm just kidding. And he gave her some dog tags or something.
Yeah.
Is that what she puts inside places?
No. So when
where did she get that thing?
Okay. So Whitey, she gets kidnapped by the like a religious group who's sponsored by Rife. So she's taken to the raft and she's just given like crappy jobs, like slicing up fish and stuff like this. And then she's working in the canteen. And then she meets Raven.
Yeah. But why did they kidnap her? What did they want her? Is it just like they kidnap anybody? They just want more people?
That's a good question. I was wondering like why I was thinking the same thing. Why was she kidnapped? Well, later I think Rife says like she's sort of like a guarantee because he knows who's after them.
Okay,
so
that makes sense, but they didn't say it very clearly.
No, but Rife kind of says, "Well, I brought you along this," and
that explains it. Yes.
Yeah, so they're not gonna kill me if you're in the same building or thing as me. So then she comes across Raven in the canteen, and they strike up a relationship very quickly.
Yes, he's very handsome.
He's got like a Fu Manchu mustache though. So
this part I couldn't deal. This was getting into my like it's so bad it's going around the other way. It's kind of fun.
So so Raven's quite the charmer apparently, and YT's quite the horn dog, and but Raven seduces her and rents out the nicest place on the raft.
Which
there's a
okay,
room.
Okay. I didn't say anything.
But so there's a sex scene. And Whitey has something called a dentana.
Yeah, I was like, what is this?
It's like an anti-rape device.
And she just has it like just in case?
Yeah, because she's a courier. She's got all sorts of like protection on her for everything.
Okay.
It's the world's like nuts. So yeah.
Okay.
So
to be specific, this device is Abhercooch, a chip that pricks your prick.
Yeah, it's like a needle that goes straight in and will basically knock you out. So, but she forgets about it, and then she realized later that it wasn't just an amazing orgasm. She's actually kind of knocking him out. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun to read this part, but it was very strange. It was fun. Yeah, I thought it was funny. It's fine. Yeah. I can imagine certain devices in the future like this. Actually.
Okay. So he wakes up and he's not sure if he's had the best time of his life or if he's
Well, she's worried that like he's gonna kill her kind of thing. But later when they kind of come across each other later, he's sort of like he's still in love. He's like smiling and sort of giving her the thumbs up and everything.
This part was so funny.
So the mafia and hero protagonist are trying to get onto the raft to rescue.
And all they want at this point is just to stop the virus.
Yeah, and to capture some of the artifacts to kind of reverse engineer
the virus. Or just
well, yeah, to
like
create
do like a cure to it.
yeah,
like
antivirus. Kind of, yes,
and
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the key point.
So they attack and fight, and they almost like so. Enzo fights Raven.
Enzo?
Yeah.
No, Enzo is sort of still on the mainland.
So later they fight.
No. Oh yeah, he does. Yes.
But
yeah.
before that, so Hero fights Raven. Maybe people fight people.
Well, the part I remember is that the Rife gets into a helicopter with Whitey to get away. Yes. Yeah.
And people everybody fights. There's also fighting.
Yeah, and at the time in the helicopter there is an artifact because Rife has been digging in places like in southern Iraq to find tablets of the Namshal.
Yeah, we'll talk about this. I can't wait.
Okay. And she kicks it out of the helicopter, and so Hero manages to get to the artifact, the tablet created by the Sumerians, and to create sort of like an antivirus.
Yeah.
So.
And the book ends by so we skipped like the and so but even fight they almost kill each other but they don't, and then they're fine, and then we don't talk about them.
I thought Enzo killed him.
No, they both like almost kill each other, and then they're both like almost dead, exhausted, and they just give up on fighting. Is what I think happened.
I thought Enzo sort of had his like straight razor and sort of slit his like.
I'm not even sure. At this point, I was so like out of it, and I was like, why? It just like fizzled out.
Okay.
Just like all the fighting at the raft.
Yeah.
It was cool. The fighting itself was cool, but why did they fight? What did they want? Like it was kind of like, and then these people fight, and those people fight, and then Whitey goes back to her mother. Okay, the end.
Yes.
I say, what is?
Yeah. Well, Hero gets back with his ex-girlfriend.
Oh, that's me. Okay, we skipped that.
Yeah.
It was really strange. The ending felt so strange. I don't know why I don't like it, but I didn't like it.
Yeah, it was a bit abrupt, I think. Yeah, but
there wasn't any climax. There wasn't any resolution. I guess they made the antivirus. Okay. And Rife is dead.
Yeah, because one of the rat doggies.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Okay.
So Rife is trying to get away in his jet, and one of Fido, who was actually Whitey's old rescue dog, that's been turned into a cyber dog, jumps into the turbine of the engine.
That was good.
Actually,
yes,
so,
that was fun.
Yeah, to save Whitey because he remembers who she is.
Also, I like Fido, the name.
Yeah, Fido. Dog, yes.
Yeah. So that's the plot.
All right.
Mr. Robot reference.
It was?
Yeah, I want to say this has nothing to do with Mr. Robot at all. There is no Mr. Robot reference. And the reason I like Mr. Robot is mental illnesses and stuff like that. Mr. Robot is not at all like this. It's completely...
Then why are you bringing it up?
Just to make you angry.
Alright, well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching.
I hope you enjoyed this beautiful background that Paul set up. It's amazing. Also the suit. Thank you for that.
I always dress like this.
Okay. Of course, Mr. Professor Paul.
Yes. Are there certain books you want to borrow?
Yeah, I'm very curious about the Witcher.
The Witcher.
But I can't read it because
I
can't read kanji as much.
Just take this.
That's the book I started reading.
You look like you could be leading like a satanic sex cult. So,
there is a virus, like linguistic virus in this.
Maybe so. Anyway. Okay, so please like and subscribe.
Okay.
That will keep me motivated to do more of this nonsense. So.
Yeah, and send a beer to Paul.
No, leave a comment if there's anything we've missed or something you want to ask about.
Correct.
Language or viruses or satanic cults. So
okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.